To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
All right, we are back on State of the Nation. I'm very happy to welcome to the show Gene Valentino. Gene is a GOP political strategist, host of the Truth Cast Podcast, also a former county commissioner in Florida. Now, Gene, first of all, hello, sir. Welcome to the show. It's great to see you again, my man.
And my wife reminds me I put my pants on the same way everyone else does.
You have a wife to remind you of that too, huh? Me too.
Well, yeah.
Hey, listen, Gene, there's obviously election interference going on here everywhere from federal prosecutors to partisan corrupt DAs. We're talking about Letitia James, Fani Willis, and we can't forget Special Prosecutor Jack Smith, who is trying to speed up this trial so we can get it in before the election in hopes of getting a conviction, which, of course, in hopes would help Joe Biden. I don't know that there's any hope there. But what do you think about this, the weaponization of politics and the ugly nature it has taken with all of these just, for my money, BS charges against Trump? What's your take on all of this?
Yeah, and 95% of the polling said they find a narrative that Trump says is a dictator, right? I mean, yeah, he can be a dictator, like he said, tongue in cheek for one day, and then do the due process. I'll tolerate him for one day as dictator. That pales in comparison to 3 years of Joe Biden's dictatorship and the things that have slipped through the operations of government, sight unseen by most of us, and have caused us some of the perils and problems we're facing. What do I think about it? I think it is a breach of the system of our government, the abuse of our democratic constitutional republic, a misuse of it, Steve, to cause us to spend more time trying to repair things instead of focusing on what we can do correctly. And it's driving me crazy because we've talked about it in different senses in the past. Remember Dr. Malone and his concept of mass formation psychosis, this notion that that these transformations going on are to be accepted. Free speech, I'll tell you when you have your free speech. Until then, you just play along. I mean, yeah. I hope I answered your question, but it's just a time we're going through that has revealed itself as being unstable because many of us learning what our government is all about has not been the government you and I were taught and trained to understand here in the United States of America. And I had to go to Latvia, Riga, Latvia, on the board, one of the Baltic states, a few weeks ago on the border of Russia, only to find out from the Latvians just how much they appreciate America and our concept we take for granted called democracy. Yeah. They envy us. They are looked at the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Steve, and it's like ripping a scab off a wound to them. Because they were under that Stalin autocratic control of USSR at the time, up to about 1953 when Stalin died. And they just celebrated, when I was there, their 106th anniversary of independence. And they speak English better than most here in the United States. They're articulate and they speak so fluently and are proud of their English language, and yet on a snap of a finger they revert into their Latvian Slavic culture drawl, and when they're talking amongst themselves, it's a culture unto itself. I had to go to the Russian border to appreciate the United States of America. How about them for apples?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, that's very telling. I tell everybody that'll listen, Gene, I said the new normal ain't normal. I'm kind of sick of the new normal. And you know what scares me? I tell you what, I'm going to pose this to you, then we're going to take a quick break for a headline, and we'll come back and let you answer it. But here's what I fear. I fear that we're going through this cycle, Gene, where every 4 to 8 years, everything that was done in the previous 4 to 8 years is going to be undone. And then it's just a never-ending circle of partisan gamesmanship, lawfare, and just partisanship, the likes of which we haven't seen. And I lay a lot of that at Obama's feet, quite frankly. But that seems to be part of the new normal. Now let's take a quick break. Let's take a quick break for a headline. We'll come back and we'll get your take on that. You're listening to, and watching perhaps, State of the Nation on TNT Radio. We'll take a quick headline break and be back with Gene Valentino after this.
Gene Valentino's Grassroots Podcast. He tells the truth. He tries to get information out there to make sure people can make good, informed decisions.
Okay, we are back with Gene Valentino. Gene, before the headline, I made that comment that I think that we seem to be in this cycle where we're just undoing everything. I mean, it's no secret that when Biden got into office, he undid basically everything that Trump did, whether it was on the border, whether it was foreign policy, whether it was economic policy, domestic policy, social issues. He undid all of it. I think it's going to lose him the election, hopefully, but is that the new normal? Are we ever going to find a common ground in this country again, or is the left just completely taken over the Democrat Party and that's where we're going to be from now on?
I think the Soros culture that invaded our judiciary and prosecutorial arms of government, with attorney generals and prosecutors that are now being replaced with more conservative folks that do not have the Soros bent, that weren't funded by Soros, is one sign that this is not the new norm, as you say, Steve. The other reason is that this has been perpetrated through the Clinton administration, the Obama administration, incomes, and that includes Biden, of course, but this buildup of a deep state structure has been something that has been pervasive over the years. This didn't just happen. I will blame the Republicans for allowing it to build up. People think I'm a conservative Republican. I lean that way, but the fact is the Republicans need a good spanking for allowing certain things to go too far in the other directions. The Democrat Party is in a very bad place right now. This is my observation. They're now more worried about their future, not Joe Biden's. And while the House of Representatives considers a vote this week on impeachment inquiry, Biden gets help from who? Hillary. Why didn't Biden get help from Obama? Biden's boss. Why didn't Biden get help from Obama? Why did he have to go and get $1 million out of Hillary recently? And what does Hillary think? She's the savior to Biden's transgressions?
Yeah, exactly.
You got this. How about this guy, Jamie Raskin, that U.S. congressman, the Democrat from Maryland, quietly meeting with the GOP lawmakers in an effort to quash this impeachment inquiry. Hey, Jamie, I got news for you. It's underway, bud. You're not going to be able to reverse anything on that. Lawmakers on the news today are talking about the final rules getting put in place to make sure it's a just impeachment inquiry. Something Nancy Pelosi didn't do in her rant to try to take down Trump.
Yeah, you're not kidding. And you know something you mentioned that that this didn't just start with Biden. I agree with you. I'd say it did start to a degree. It started with Clinton, but one thing about Bill Clinton, even though he has the morals of a garden slug, he was at least politically pragmatic. I don't know how his wife would have been as commander in chief in POTUS. She probably wouldn't have been nearly as pragmatic as Bill was. But certainly, when Obama came into office, he went full tilt to the left. And of course, recently, Gene, the video has been making the rounds of Obama saying several years ago that his dream job would be to be the president where he could just sit back and do it all from behind a cloak of darkness and basically just live my life and not have to deal with the press and just have somebody else in there as a figurehead. Boy, he kind of telegraphed the Biden administration, it sounds like.
Well, that's true. And I would say on your comment about Garden Slug Bill, his wife runs a close second then, because she's playing all sorts of games that go back to this. Here, I just have it handy. You remember this feature story in the New York Post?
Oh, yeah, the 51 spies. Yep.
The 51 spies who lied. Leading the escapade is the John Brennan and James Clapper, head of the CIA and NIS and NSA. These two guys were conspiring with 49 others, Democrats in lockstep without rhyme or reason.
Hey, by the way, including one of the Clintonistas' own, Leon Panetta was one of those.
Oh,
so
that's correct.
Yeah.
Intelligence experts who falsely discredited Hunter Biden's laptop and still won't say, I'm sorry. They said that laptop was a Russian conspiracy, and they think it still is. Now, let me ask you a question. Is that Obama acting in a vacuum? Is that Biden acting in a vacuum? Is that maybe a deep state conspiracy under the puppeteering of a George Soros going back an extra decade? There was a deep state conspiracy that was building up over the decades that put us to where we are now. So to your original question, Stephen, I think it's a good one, is no, I don't think we're in for more of the same. I think the pendulum is finally swinging back the other way because people are realizing that the deep state and all of these actors were perpetrating a socialistic, autocratic, Marxist, fascist control of this nation, which evidenced itself during the problem with Trump is that they couldn't control him.
Yeah.
The problem
exactly
with
right.
Trump, he has by fiat or by default, he's become the head of the Republican Party because no one else can see leadership, the willingness to stand up and be a true leader the way he has. If we said this,
Gene, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say that I just had Dustin Olson on the air with me. He's a great pollster, regular guest on the show. And we were talking about it. And he pointed out that a year ago, the numbers were completely different than they are now. And a year later, the people are what they're doing is some of them may not even know it, but they're comparing and contrasting. And they may not have liked Trump. They may not have liked his Twitter feed. They may not have liked his braggadocious attitude and his, tough guy shtick, his New York shtick. But when they compare and contrast policy, and it doesn't matter what subject you mention, these days, Trump wins that argument.
He wins it big time, and he gets the privilege of asking a fundamental question to the rest of the world. Failure to defend the rights of other people may someday result in your rights not being defended. How many people in this world, outside of a few close allies, have stepped up to help America now during our time of need? Who's helping us with maybe the silicone chips in manufacturing? Who's helping us out at the southern border? Who's helping us out doing what's right, not what's popular or financially rewarding? Here we have today President Zelensky from Ukraine with his hand out before Congress and the president asking for money. Has anyone asked or sought an audit or an audit trail on the money that we gave, the $120 billion that first went to Ukraine? Before you ask me, Zelensky, for more money, would someone look around and tell me where all that $120 billion went?
Yeah,
And then
good
I have
point.
to remind myself that it was only a few years ago, Joe Biden under Obama was telling the officials in Ukraine, you better fire that Viktor
Shokin.
Shokin. You better fire him, or we're holding up the $1 billion to you. The same country is now asking for more money from us.
Yeah.
And no one has an audit trail on where that money has gone. I think that a lot of Biden's good decision making has been compromised. And it begs the question of all of what's going on in House oversight and the judiciary about the America being compromised by the Biden crime family.
Well, we're going to find out soon enough. We're going to find out soon enough, Gene. Listen, before we let you go, and I got to roll because we're coming up on that break, tell us where we can find the podcast. In other words, what I'm telling you, Gene, is it's plug time. What do you got for me, my friend?
It's always good being with you. But folks, I'll take Steve up on his offer. www.genevalentino.com. Look for the Gene Valentino's Grassroots Truth Casts and the other panel on our homepage called America Beyond the Noise. We take all of the TNT Radio Live interviews with Steve and we put them in there in date sequence. Please come and subscribe and be a TNT supporter through Gene Valentino's Grassroots Truth Cast.
God bless, Gene. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to chatting with you again. Have a wonderful evening, man. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, take care. All right, there he goes. That's Gene Valentino, the great Gene Valentino. You're watching and listening to State of the Nation. We'll be right back on TNT Radio.
Hey, friends, Gene Valentino. We just wrapped up another episode. This is what you see above the waist, but below the waist is Mike Lindell's My Slippers, up to 80% off. Hint, hint. But use the promo code, please, GeneV. Enjoy the holidays, enjoy the springtime, enjoy the year ahead of us in 2024. And stay cozy in a cozy slipper from My Slipper.